Back here on HQ Spotlight, we have a brand new CBS Sports Top 25 and 1 college basketball rankings from our guy, Gary Parrish. Bill Self, Kansas still in that #1 spot. Auburn at #2. UNC, UConn, Iowa State. But it's also a big week for Big Ten hoops. There are 5 Big Ten schools up here. #8 Purdue, 14 Indiana, 17 Wisconsin, 20 Ohio State, and #24 Rutgers. Hey, shout out to my Gators. Maybe we're going to be ranked in basketball, Amanda. Football, it feels like that ship has sailed.
That's what we're going with, basketball?
We're a basketball school.
All right, Gary will give you hope.
Yeah, let's welcome in Gary Parrish. Always good to see you, my friend. And we are going to start with the top-ranked Big Ten team that is in that ranking in Purdue, upsetting Bama on Friday. And Gary, there was some concern, or question marks, I should say, in the offseason about what is life without the big man, Zach Edey, going to look like for Purdue. But it feels like so far, although it is early, that they have not skipped a beat.
Yeah, so far so good. They're 4-0 coming off of a victory over Alabama, which was some people's preseason #1. Jack, and like you said, it's too early to say they are not going to miss a beat in the absence of Zach Edey, because he was a 7'4", 2-time National Player of the Year, who is now, playing in Memphis with the Grizzlies, and through the first few weeks of the season has emerged as a legitimate candidate, if not the leading candidate to be the NBA's Rookie of the Year. So you lose a guy like that, you probably don't just keep moving down the track same as you ever did. But they are 4-0 with a win over Alabama and ranked in the top 10 everywhere. The key has been Braden Smith. He's the All-American level point guard that wasn't projected that way coming out of high school, but this is his 3rd year of college. He's a 3rd-year starter, and Matt Painter has developed him into somebody who is going to compete for the honor to be called the best point guard in the country and maybe even the best player in the country. It is not crazy to think that Purdue could have another National Player of the Year, 3 straight, with Braden Smith being the latest.
And we get to see Purdue in action tonight, a top 15 matchup with Marquette. So that is going to be an awesome one to watch early on in the season. Let's go to #2 in your rankings. We're talking about Auburn. Most of the headlines and most of us have moved past the infamous airplane situation that we talked about last time, GP. This team just keeps on rolling. They recently just dropped 102. Yes, on North Alabama, but still they look pretty legit up until this point.
They really do. I don't think anybody coaches through chaos better than Bruce Pearl. I mean, throughout his career, he's coached through multiple NCAA investigations. He's had an assistant coach arrested and charged with a federal crime. He's had recruiting violations. He's had, players get suspended. As you noted, players get into a fight on a plane on the way to a game, and they went to Houston and beat Houston in Houston. Just 24 hours after that happened, they look like legitimate national championship contenders, mostly because of Janai Broome, who is right now ranked #1 in the KenPom.com Player of the Year rankings. So they've got an incredible big in that front court who has been a great college basketball player for years, and they've surrounded him with enough good pieces to be not only one of the best teams in the SEC, but one of the best teams in the country. Bruce Pearl obviously took Auburn to its first Final Four ever. That happened back in 2019. I'm not ready to make predictions in November about what's coming in April, but at this point, Auburn undeniably looks like a legitimate Final Four contender.
I think coaching through chaos, if you look it up, it certainly says if you can coach a team that has to have an airplane landed and then go to Houston and still pick up the win, that certainly qualifies as coaching in chaos. Let's talk about the Zags. They are at #6 on the top 25 and 1 rankings. They go into Viejas, GP, which is a very hostile environment. They pick up a really good win against another powerhouse program out west in SDSU. What did you learn about Gonzaga against a really good SDSU defense this early on in the season?
Well, I don't know that I learned anything, but I was certainly reminded, as was the rest of the country, fun game on CBS Sports Network last night, that the Zags are maybe the best offensive team in the country, and they certainly grade out that way right now. I mean, this is a Gonzaga team that's 4-0. They've already got wins over Baylor, Arizona State, and most recently San Diego State. They're #1 at evanmia.com. They're #1 in adjusted offensive efficiency at barttorvik.com. San Diego State, as you know, is probably not what it's been in recent years. They lost a lot from that consistently good program. but Viejas is still one of the more hostile environments in college basketball. So for the Zags to go in there and not only win the game, but win the game convincingly and basically control it from start to finish, super, super impressive. Mark Few has never missed the NCAA tournament. The Zags have have made 25 straight. They've been in 9 straight Sweet 16s. They've been in 2 of the past 7 national championship games. This is one of the very best college basketball programs on the men's side that we have, and the best could be yet to come. The Zags look like they could be competing for a 3rd trip to the Final Four, and maybe, just maybe, that national championship that has eluded Mark Few so far, that might be within his grasp. He's got a team that looks on paper good enough to go do the whole thing.
Yeah, and to your point, the Zags had 6 of their top 7 scorers back, and for San Diego State, losing 6 of their top 7. Quickly, let's hit on Arkansas coming in at number 16, coming off of a win over Pacific. And this is something interesting that you pointed out, Gary, that a lot of sons of former Calipari players accounted for like more than half of those points in that win.
Yeah, they got 46 of the points against Pacific. It's interesting, and this is just evidence that John Calipari and I were both getting old, because at Memphis, John Calipari coached 4 people who now have sons playing for him at Arkansas, and I happen to be the beat writer through that time, so I covered all of the fathers, and I'm now sitting here covering the sons. It's Sadu Thiero, whose father, Almami Thiero, played for John at Memphis. DJ Wagner is DeJuan Wagner's son. Billy Richmond is Billy Richmond's junior son. And then, of course, there's Antonio Burke's son, who was the Conference USA Player of the Year early on in John's tenure at Memphis. He's now a walk-on at Arkansas. So the Razorbacks, it's still early to know exactly how good they're going to be, but they look the part so far. And if they are going to make the NCAA tournament, advance in that event, it is probably going to be on the backs of some players whose fathers played for John Calipari a couple of decades ago. It's a neat little story originating in Fayetteville.
Yeah, super, super cool. GP, we certainly appreciate it. Always good to see you going down the latest college basketball top 25 and 1 rankings. By the way, you can find those right now over on CBSSports.com. The conversation continues over on the Eye on College Basketball podcast with GP, Matt Norlander. You can download, follow, listen wherever you get your pods, or make sure you're watching right now by scanning that QR code.